Tonight, the standoff in Los Angeles, protesters versus police, and now the state's governor versus the president of the United States. City on edge, protesters out in force today as police brace for another chaotic night. Violent clashes with police, driverless cars torched, agitators throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails at cars, all in response to ICE raids across the city and President Trump calling up the National Guard. Now the Marines are being mobilized. All this amid a war of words between President Trump and Gavin Newsom. The president saying California's governor should be arrested. Newsom says, bring it on. And now the state filing a lawsuit trying to force out the National Guard. So what happens next? The shooting on the Las Vegas Strip, terrified tourists racing for cover. 2 people killed and the suspect now in custody. Why did he open fire? Married to a serial killer. The new interview with the wife of the alleged Gilgo Beach killer. Why she says he's still her hero? The major win for Blake Lively, a judge throwing out the countersuit by Justin Baldoni against her. Why her team says this is a total victory. What it means now for the case against the director she says sexually harassed her. TikTok skincare warning, the new study just out about the booming trend of teens and tweens going overboard on skincare products. Why it's not just bad for your wallet, but for your health as well. And Air Zebra, the stunning video of that runaway zebra finally captured in Tennessee and airlifted back home. His owners join top story. How is the most famous zebra in the country doing right now? Plus, the new initiative just announced by President Trump, how your newborn could receive $1,000 or more. Top story starts right now. Hey, good evening. We are following breaking news as we come on the air. A 4th straight day of protest erupting on the streets of Los Angeles following ICE raids throughout the nation's 2nd largest city. Right now, hundreds of Marines are being mobilized. The Trump administration taking that step after calling in the National Guard this weekend. We're taking a live look right now at an active situation unfolding right now. These are protesters outside of a federal building in downtown L.A. You can see the signs there, the flags waving in the air, but it appears at this point to be peaceful. New video showing the LAPD side by side with the National Guard standing off with protesters in downtown L.A. And earlier, thousands gathering in downtown Los Angeles protesting Friday's deportation operations and widespread arrests. Those protests ramping up over the weekend. Here are the images. Dramatic video as a police car was lit on fire. A major highway shut down as demonstrators swarmed the area. Some hurling rocks at officers. A reporter caught in the crossfire, struck by a rubber bullet during a live shot. Take a look.
Out of L.A.
We are told that reporter from Australia is okay. Clashes on the streets sparking a political showdown between California Governor Gavin Newsom and President Trump. Governor Newsom saying he will sue the Trump administration over the decision to call in the Guard. The president reacting this afternoon to Governor Newsom, daring border czar Tom Homan to come arrest him.
I would do it if I was Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job.
And protests spreading well beyond Los Angeles. Take a look at this from Washington, D.C. to Tampa, Florida. Thousands protesting against the immigration crackdown. We have a lot to get to this evening. Our teams are on the ground as the situation changes minute by minute. I want to start tonight with NBC's Liz Kreutz. Liz, talk to us about what you're seeing there now that the Marines are also being deployed to L.A.
Yeah, well, right now, Tom, we're in downtown L.A. where about 3 different protests have sort of converged here outside this old federal building. Los Angeles has just issued a citywide tactical alert. And these protesters, well, mostly peaceful. We did just see a skirmish happen, and they are angry. They are shouting at these officers, those National Guard right there that have just been deployed.
Tonight, a massive group of protesters again taking to the streets of L.A.
In this country, no human is illegal.
The city of Angels on edge after violent clashes over the weekend. Police in riot gear facing off with protesters who oppose immigration enforcement operations carried out by ICE agents. Tonight, President Trump saying he made a great decision to send 2,000 National Guard soldiers to the city.
People that are causing the problem are professional agitators, they're insurrectionists.
California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom opposed the president's move, saying Trump was manufacturing chaos and violence.
You had a disaster happening. I feel we had no choice. I don't want to see I don't want to see happen what happened so many times in this country. I watched Minneapolis burn.
All of this erupting in response to ICE immigration enforcement operations. More than 100 undocumented immigrants arrested last week. DHS saying most had final deportation orders, some with criminal records, including domestic violence and robbery. Mayor Karen Bass calling on residents to express their anger peacefully and blaming the president for inflaming the unrest.
I don't want people to fall into the chaos that I believe is being created by the administration completely unnecessarily.
The confrontations escalating over the weekend. This video showing DHS agents pelted with objects while inside their vehicle. And here, a restaurant worker helping a sheriff's deputy who appeared to be pepper sprayed.
Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
Police firing non-lethal rounds to disperse the crowds, one hitting this reporter. The protesters taking over one of LA's busiest freeways, bringing traffic Sunday to a standstill. Crowds above throwing rocks and incendiary devices at officers. An electric scooter landing on the hood of a police car.
We're here on 101 right now. Protesters have shut down the freeway. You can see flashlights have been going off. Police are closing in. Protesters are running southbound. Let's go.
Our team pulling back to avoid the tear gas. Later, we watched as protesters vandalized multiple Waymo self-driving vehicles that got stuck in the chaos.
Things are escalating now. Protesters have lit 2 Waymo self-driving cars on fire. You can see the flames here.
Police cars and this American flag also set ablaze. During the clashes, many protesters waving Mexican flags, what's become a symbol
On Thursday.
We're going to go hearing them over.
When it comes to the solutions, the administration has claimed that there is a lack of transparency when it comes to what they know. Have you considered...
What they know? What are they looking for?
Well, there's been released information when it comes to potential ICE raids. And
Oh.
When it comes to working with them, would you be considering to give them a list of the violent criminals to particularly focus on the ones who they should be focusing on?
I mean, I don't have that list, and I don't think our chief has that list. So to me, you would be talking about federal warrants, which means the federal government would have the list of violent federal criminals.
NBC4 News at 6.
This is going to continue from all the representatives we talked to on the congressional level, 30 days. So what can then we expect? What can you tell both the immigrant population, the city population about what?
Well, let me just say, in terms of the immigrant population and other Angelinos, I'm going to do everything I can to keep people safe. And the population of all of Los Angeles needs to know that we will stand with them. We're not going to allow our city to be divided and picked apart. And but you know what you also described is who knows? Yes, maybe 30 days, maybe longer, maybe shorter. How many raids in a given day? Where are those raids going to take place? Who are they looking for? None of that is information that we know. And again, this kind of atmosphere, it creates a chaos in our city. People not sure whether they should go outside, whether they need to stay inside. We did not need this. There was nothing happening in the city that warranted what we're dealing with now.
Down in front, and we're going to end.
Mayor, with the National Guard and now the Marines in town, is there any indication that they will take direction from your emergency management center?
They're the federal government, absolutely not. And I hear that the Marines are on the way. I don't know if they really are. You know, I know that there was a post from the administration congratulating the National Guard for bringing peace before they even arrived. They weren't even here. But they were being congratulated for solving the problem, coming in and saving the day that didn't need saving.
How are you getting information about who is coming in? I mean, a lot of us are getting it from Twitter. Is that where you're getting it?
I'm getting it from you.
We're going to end right here.
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, I know you had mentioned that there were 5 raids in our area today, and one in the city. Do you have any more information about, where they occurred, especially here in the city?
No, the one I know of happens to have taken place at near my grandson's school, so I know that one. But no, I don't know. Claudia Aragon is the director of our Office of Immigrant Affairs?
Yes, we are working closely with the Rapid Response Network, and we are getting the data with them. So as they compile that, they work with us. And as you know, it's very much ongoing. So usually we check back with them at the end of the day. So unfortunately, as it happens, they don't tell us, and it happens probably as we speak now. So we'll check back with them at the end of the day, and hopefully those numbers don't.
Because I think the key is, are they just willy-nilly, grabbing people?
Oh, do you want Claudia to come to the microphone? Yes. Microphone.
And those 5 raids were from today?
Correct.
Okay.
And where was the one by what school?
She said that one of them was near her grandson's school.
Like what part of that?
LA. But I think there was a question that...
I guess the question is, so there's 5 raids today. Where, if you're not being able to pinpoint ahead of time, how do you then respond and or set up or get people prepared if there are going to be more?
Well, it's not necessarily about preparing them, per se, now. It's our office, along with our community partners, have been unfortunately preparing for this moment, previously, for decades, through the Know Your Rights campaign, as you all know, with the red cards. And doing those campaigns, you all have been working with these community partners for decades, and this is the moment that a lot of them had been working with. This is the second time that this administration comes around, so unfortunately a lot of these partners really just activated this portfolio, and this is what they know how to do pretty well. And it's not really about preparing them, it's about bringing back that particular part of their portfolio and educating them about their rights, and really having the element of the recently arrived part of the immigrant population with the migrant buses in our region, and really with that integrated part of the community, and letting them know what the sanctuaries region really means, and letting them know what their rights are, and and letting them know that we don't know when the raids are going to happen, and that's why it is important for them to know their rights, and for them to understand what their rights are, and to be prepared. And education is key, and that's really the only way they can air quote arm themselves, unfortunately.
Truma has a hotline that folks can call if they see a raid. Does the city have something similar where you all can kind of
No, and the Chirla hotline is the Rapid Response Network, and so Chirla is one of the leads for that, and a lot of the partners are that. And if you all don't know, the Rapid Response Network works as with the public. If they see anything, it's sort of like if you see something, say something, where anyone from the public can call the Rapid Response Network, and they can find it in the ACLU website as well. If anyone sees that they feel like it's something like, oh, I think that's like a DHS vehicle, they call and say, I think that's what it is. Any one of the partners that's trained to identify, they send someone out that can confirm that that in fact is activity or an actual federal law enforcement vehicle, and they report it back to the network, and they do call back the caller and say, yes, that in fact is what you thought, or it's not, and that's how they can confirm what it is, and that's how they count numbers, and that's how they report it back.
Yeah. Well, let me just say thank you very much for being here today. We'll be back here tomorrow. I am hopeful that the federal government will hear our plea. Stop the raids. This is creating fear and chaos in our city, and it is unnecessary. And I hope that we will be heard because our city is trying to move forward. And I believe that the federal government should be supportive of us moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, you've been listening to LA Mayor Karen Bass, and again, we want to let you know it's just after 6 o'clock as we continue with the anti-immigration arrest protests that have been going on for hours in downtown Los Angeles. Good evening once again, everybody. I'm Michael Brownlee.
And I'm Carolyn Johnson.
Law enforcement, Tom, and here in Los Angeles, obviously they have been out on the streets, but a senior White House official says that's not being actively considered nor planned to NBC News. Meanwhile, Tom Homan, the border czar, told me this weekend that, quote, every day ICE enforcement operations will continue on the streets of Los Angeles, including at places just like this one, where one of the very first raids was carried out on Friday, took place, and unleashed the protests that we're seeing today. Tom?
Jacob Sobroff for us tonight. Jacob, we thank you for that. Now to the deadly shooting in Las Vegas that left tourists running for cover. Authorities today arresting a suspect in connection with the double homicide. And a warning tonight, the video is disturbing. NBC News' Ryan Chandler has the latest details.
Chaos on the Las Vegas Strip. Police say 2 people are dead after a shooter opened fire. Officials say the suspect is now in custody. According to local police, 41-year-old Manuel Ruiz walked into a Henderson police station this morning, turning himself in. Officials say he will be booked on 2 counts of open murder with a deadly weapon. NBC News reached out to local police, who did not confirm if Ruiz is the man seen firing a weapon in this video. The shooting was caught on a live stream just before 11 Sunday night. Video shows what appears to be a confrontation before this man pulls out a handgun, firing at least 7 shots, sending people in the crowds running for safety. This is exactly where those shots rang out, leaving 2 people dead here at the scene, police tell us. We spoke to a man who said he was right here when it happened and ran for his life.
I'm running. Yeah, I started panicking.
Why did you come back here today?
I mean, I guess I cannot be scared for the rest of my life. You know?
Police say this was an isolated attack that started with an online feud.
The suspect and the victim had previously engaged in some type of conflict using a variety of social media platforms.
As the investigation continues, officials have not yet disclosed the identities of the victims.
Ryan Chandler joins us tonight live from Las Vegas, from that point where that shoot happened. Ryan, the Las Vegas Strip sees millions of visitors a year. The tourist you talked to who ran for cover was back out there today. Is there a larger safety concern on the Strip right now?
You know, Tom, no. In fact, the message that we're getting from law enforcement and from people here on the Strip we've been talking to is quite the opposite. Law enforcement stresses that this was an isolated, targeted incident, not indiscriminate violence. Violence here on the Strip, especially deaths, are rare. And many of the people that we spoke to say that they didn't even know that this violence happened. Others saying that in the reality we live in nowadays, you always need to be prepared and alert when you're in public places like this, Tom.
All right, thanks so much for that, Ryan. We appreciate it. Now to the severe weather threat and a tornado reported in western New York, with 52 million at risk for dangerous storms. This after a dangerous weekend of weather in the south. Take a look at this. Another tornado. You see it right here, touching down in Felt, Oklahoma. And in northwest Texas, 2-inch hail rain coming down. That region now bracing for more damaging conditions. Plus, the first hurricane of the season developing in the tropics. Let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, walk us through what you're watching tonight.
Yeah, numerous areas have at least a threat of some bad weather. We got the heat wave in the west, and we'll get to that hurricane. So we got 52 million people through the rest of it tonight with at least a chance of getting some severe weather. We're already seeing some of the worst of it in areas of Pennsylvania, western New York, areas of Virginia, too. We have a severe thunderstorm watch here that we've been moving through western Pennsylvania. At one point, we had a tornado warning near Erie, of all places. Now we're watching a severe thunderstorm heading over the Finger Lakes of New York. That was a tornado warning near Bath. That has since weakened a little bit here as it heads over Seneca Lake. To the south, we're going to jump. We've had a severe thunderstorm right over the top of the Norfolk area. Now it's on the east side of town on the 64 loop. Large hail damaging winds are possible with that as we go throughout the next hour or two. We're also still monitoring Hurricane Barbara. Now, this is not in the Atlantic Basin. This is in the Pacific Basin, and this is the second named storm already. It's a Category 1 storm. Later in the season, when the water gets warm enough, these can head up towards Cabo San Lucas. The Hurricane Center does not think that's going to happen this time because the waters are cooler, so it's going to be meandering northward. Some large large waves, maybe a tiny bit of rain. But, Tom, this is just kind of another one of those wake-up calls that hurricane season is here, and it's just a matter of time.
It is hurricane season. Tough to believe. Okay, Bill, we thank you for that. We want to head to the White House now, where President Trump unveiled his new Trump accounts, which promise a $1,000 savings plan for every newborn American. Joining me tonight is NBC's Vaughn Hilliard to break down what that means. So, Vaughn, we already have CEOs from Dell to Uber lining up expressing support for this and offering matching funds for children of their employees. What exactly are these Trump accounts and how would they work?
Right. This is what the White House is touting and hopefully being able to pass this legislation, promising every American family that has a baby between January 1st of this year and January 1st of 2029 that they would have $1,000 placed into a savings account that is tied to the stock market. The idea is that it grows over the years and that every year, if family members, friends, or even private entities were to choose to invest upwards of $5,000 annually into that account, they could. And that is where you're hearing from some of these CEOs saying that they would seek matching funds, effectively matching that $1,000 that the government puts in the first year. And the idea is that when a kid ultimately turns 18 years old, they'd be able to use those funds, whether it's just that $1,000 and the extent to which it grew with the stock market over time, or even potentially more towards educational investment or job creation investment. And so that is where the government, as part of this reconciliation package, what the president is calling his big, beautiful bill, they are trying to put focus on this type of a framework of an idea, $1,000 for every baby, as a way to convince Americans that ultimately this is a good investment through this legislation.
All right. And then while I have you there, Vaughn, another headline we're following, new reporting that HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is gutting the CDC's independent panel on vaccines.
That's right. There are 17 members that are on this independent panel that makes historically recommendations to the CDC in terms of vaccines that they recommend to American adults and kids, and those vaccine schedules. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., despite a promise ahead of his confirmation vote, there was one Republican senator that he was very explicit that Kennedy promised that he would not do exactly what he announced this afternoon, but effectively eliminating and removing all 17 of those members from that independent CDC recommendation agency, and announcing that they are going to put forward 17 new individuals. Kennedy has been a vocal skeptic, but even often critical of vaccines, including the COVID vaccines. He had sought through the FDA to retract COVID vaccines back in 2021. And so now there are a lot of questions ahead, including from Republicans, about who he is going to place on this, it was one-time independent agency.
All right, Vaughn Hilliard, a lot of reporting there for us. Vaughn, we thank you. We're back in 60 seconds with the calls for a mistrial from Sean Diddy Combs' legal team, why they say the whole case should be thrown out. When will the judge rule? And the big win for Blake Lively, the countersuit from Justin Baldoni tossed out, her legal team's reaction tonight. And Flying Stripes, the zebra airlifted after a week on the run. Its owners speak out to Top Story. How is he doing now? And what will they do to make sure he doesn't escape again? Stay with us. We are back now with major news in the high-profile legal battle between actors Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. A federal judge dismissing Baldoni's $400 million countersuit against Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and the New York Times, along with other parties. The public feud between the It Ends With Us movie co-stars boiled over in December of 2024 when Lively filed a complaint accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment on set. Lively's suit against Baldoni will move forward. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now. Danny, her team calling today a total victory. How would you describe it?
Almost the same. I would say it's a near total victory. Some of the complaint or the allegations survive, but not many. And the causes of action that Baldoni is permitted to refile are not the most appetizing. The major claims and causes of action, defamation, civil extortion, those claims are essentially out and probably out forever.
Does this say anything about the case Lively has against Baldoni? Can we read anything into that?
No, but what is really significant is I cannot stress enough to you how rarely motions like this to throw out cases at this stage, because it's based only on the four corners of Baldoni's complaint. And the law requires that the judge give every inference to Baldoni, give him every benefit of the doubt, and assume everything he's alleged is factually true. And even still, given that, he failed to state a claim that the court could give relief to. So therefore, those claims are thrown out.
That leads me to my next question. Does Baldoni have any other legal avenues?
He does. He can refile the claims that the court allowed him to refile. But these are things called tortious interference with contract, breach of the implied duty of good faith in contracts. Tom, I have to tell you, these are claims that I have brought to. They're usually the second to last and last one I list in my causes of action. They're not the most powerful. They're kind of add-ons. So this is a major, major victory for Lively.
Do you think this says more about Baldoni's case or Baldoni's legal team?
I think it might say more about the case itself. For example, the defamation, at least a lot of the defamation, was based on things that Lively alleged in a complaint to a government agency. But here's the thing. Those kinds of complaints to government agencies and harassment cases are privileged. In other words, you can say things in those, like you can say things in court filings, that would be defamation in the outside world, on Twitter, in a letter. But when you do it to a court or an agency, they're privileged. So no amount of pleading, no amount of additional facts could have helped those defamation claims.
All right. Danny Savalas, always great to have you. We appreciate it. Okay, when Top Story returns, an explosive new docuseries about the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer, the husband, father, and architect accused of leading a double life and murdering 7 women. We have an exclusive new interview with his daughter and his wife speaking out for the first time. Top moment tonight, one mom in Virginia surprising her children with the keys to their new home after years of unstable living situations. Take a look.
I want a key. This is mine.
Wait, so this means...
Wait, what?
Yes!
This is
ours?
Yeah! This is our house!
Yes.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Oh, I love that video. That mom, Andrea Copps, who took this video, told Top Story today that she shared it on TikTok 1 year after moving into their own home in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, hoping it would inspire others to overcome their own challenges. And get this, after her video went viral, strangers across the internet chipped in to help furnish her home. She says she now would love to use her platform to support other moms in need in the future. Love that so much. All right, stay with us. We're back in a moment. Back now with Top Story's news feed, and tonight, President Trump's new travel ban has taken effect. The ban applies to citizens from these 12 countries, mostly located in the Middle East and in Africa. An additional 7 countries are now under heightened restrictions. The White House says it will not revoke visas that had previously been granted to people from these countries. So far, no major disruptions have been reported at airports or across the country. The leader of an alleged sex cult convicted by a jury in New York, Nicole Daydun, founder of the sexual wellness company One Taste, you may remember, now found guilty on 1 count of forced labor conspiracy. Daydun sat down for an exclusive interview with Top Story ahead of her trial, in which she denied subjecting members to economic, sexual, and emotional abuse. She's now facing 20 years in prison. 2 tourists found themselves stuck on cliffs by San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge this weekend, trying to save a cell phone. The San Francisco Fire Department posting video of the rescue. One of the tourists had dropped their phones but couldn't climb back up after going back down to get it. The fire department coming in with a rope rescue operation. No injuries reported, but the tourists were given a ticket for climbing down the cliffs. And just days after the release of Nintendo's Switch 2, Xbox announcing the release of its own handheld console. The news coming after years-long rumors of the development of the console. The device is expected to let gamers access their game libraries on the go. The new Xbox console is set to be released later this year. So far, no word on how much it will cost. In New York City today, raw emotion in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial, as Diddy's former girlfriend took the stand saying he repeatedly sexually and physically abused her. Her testimony coming as Combs' legal team called for a mistrial. NBC's Chloe Malas was inside the courtroom and has the latest.
Tonight, Jane back on the stand for a 3rd day of tearful testimony. The woman who once dated Combs testifying under a pseudonym to protect her identity. She described terrifying physical violence, testifying that Combs broke down doors and choked her, even lifting her up by her neck, but also saying she did not report the abuse to authorities. Jane crying today as well, as she testified to being forced to have sex with male escorts in drug-fueled encounters she referred to as hotel nights. Jane read several text exchanges between herself and Combs, in which she told him she did not want to participate participate. One reading, "I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies." Jane telling prosecutor Maureen Comey that she felt forced because Combs was paying the rent for her LA home, and he threatened to stop if she refused to have sex with the escorts.
Jane's testimony marks really one of the most legally transformative moments in the trial because she bridges the gap really between the narrative and the statute. Her account maps directly into the elements of sex trafficking.
In the courtroom, Combs' mother and one of his sons sat behind him. At one point, a rather subdued Combs turned around and appeared to mouth, "I love you, Mommy." Combs continues to deny the allegations against him. Jane's testimony later turning to Cassie Ventura's explosive civil lawsuit in which she sued Combs for physical abuse and sex trafficking, accusing him of making her participate in similar drug-fueled sex parties, which Ventura called freak-offs. That suit was settled with Combs admitting no wrongdoing. Jane testifying that when she first read Ventura's suit in November 2023, she almost fainted. "In fact, I think I did," she said. "I couldn't sleep. It felt like a nightmare. I can't believe I'm reading my own story." Today, the first back in court since Combs' legal team filed a motion for a mistrial. In a letter to the judge, his team writing that the prosecution, quote, has presented testimony that it knew or should have known was materially false, claiming Brianna Bongolan's testimony last week in which she said Combs dangled her over a 17-story balcony could not have happened because Combs was in New York at several public events near the time of the alleged incident.
Not every misstatement by a witness amounts to a mistrial. The defense must prove, if they really want that mistrial, that the government knew that the statement was false and that the government failed to act. And most importantly, that falsehood was so prejudicial that it deprives Diddy of a fair trial.
The judge stating that he would make a decision once prosecutors had a chance to file a response.
Jane is expected to be on the stand through the end of the week, and she might be the last key witness for the government, which means that we could see Sean Combs' defense team put on their case sometime next week.
Things moving fast. We thank Chloe for that. Now to an exclusive first look at stunning interviews with the ex-wife and daughter of accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann, talking on camera for the first time in a new documentary on Peacock. Here's NBC's Stephanie Goss with that exclusive interview.
While accused serial killer Rex Heuermann sits in jail charged with murdering 7 women.
The question everyone keeps asking is, how could you not know?
His former wife and daughter are speaking out for the first time in a new crime documentary debuting tomorrow on Peacock, part of NBC Universal.
I was 10, 12, and 13 years old when these girls were murdered.
The Gilgo Beach murders on Long Island, New York were considered a cold case for more than a decade, until 2023, when Heuermann was arrested in Midtown Manhattan. The architect linked to the crimes partly through DNA he left on a pizza crust, according to prosecutors.
How you doing? I'm doing great, now that I've got you on the phone.
In the documentary, his ex-wife, Asa Ellerup, says Heuermann is her hero, and she is convinced police have the wrong guy.
The night of the raid, they drove us over to the hotel, and they got us a room.
The reason she filed for divorce in the days after his arrest, she says, was to protect the family's assets. But his daughter sounds less convinced of his innocence.
I feel like I can't know whether or not he did or didn't because I was not around for it. I was too young to understand.
Noting that she spent stretches of time not seeing her father.
Like I said, at the same time, there was a lot of hours out of the day that I also was not home, including vacations that he did not join us on.
Heuermann pleaded not guilty to all 7 murders. There is still no date set for his trial.
Stephanie Goss joins us tonight here in studio. Stephanie, we were just talking. We've both been following this case pretty closely. It was a surprise that Peacock got these interviews, right?
It is a surprise. So they haven't spoken, right? All we knew in the days following the arrest is that the wife divorced him. So there was some speculation that there had been a split. But now what we're learning from this documentary is that she doesn't believe that he did it. She is calling him her hero. So it'll be interesting to see what else.
The daughter, not so much, but the wife.
Yeah, she's wobbling a little bit.
Separate places. Thanks so much for that, Stephanie. We appreciate it. Okay, now to the Americas and a story you may not have heard about, an assassination attempt that has rocked the country of Colombia. A senator who is running for president shot in the middle of a political rally. The suspected shooter, just 15 years old. NBC's Marissa Parra has this report, and we do want to warn you, some of the footage you're about to see is graphic.
principal problema en Colombia.
Tonight, a Colombian presidential candidate is fighting for his life after an assassination attempt in the nation's capital. New video shows the horrifying moment a shooter in the crowd at a campaign event in Bogota pulls out a gun and shoots 39-year-old Senator Miguel Uribe in the head. People heard crying out in anguish they killed him before Uribe was rushed to the hospital. Doctors say he remains in critical condition after undergoing brain surgery.
Arizona, Estados Unidos.
Authorities arrested a 15-year-old suspect at the scene who, according to the Attorney General's office, was armed with a 9mm pistol that had been legally purchased in Arizona.
We have seen an alarming increase in assassination attempts and attacks on political officials, elected officials, over the past 5 or 6 years. And that seems to be largely driven by the increasing power of organized crime.
Uribe, a member of the right-wing Democratic Center Party, has pledged to crack down on violence across the Latin American nation.
Si luchamos juntos, vuelve la seguridad.
Announcing his intention to run for president last October from the location where he says his mother, a journalist, was kidnapped by Pablo Escobar's cartel and later killed in a rescue operation in 1991 during one of Colombia's darkest chapters with drug cartel violence.
We haven't seen this kind of high-level political assassination in Colombia for quite some time now. I mean, it happened routinely in the 1980s, even 1990s. But to see it today is pretty shocking. It's a country experiencing a flashback.
Uribe is also the grandson of Julio Cesar Turbay, who served as the president of Colombia from 1978 to 1982.
Gustavo Petro quiere utilizar.
He's been a vocal critic of leftist President Gustavo Petro, who is term limited and not eligible to run in next May's election. This weekend, Petro condemned the attack and called for a thorough investigation. Meanwhile, supporters were seen gathering outside Uribe's hospital, praying for his recovery as a nation still haunted by political violence of the past recovers from the present.
Marissa Parra joins us tonight from Miami. Marissa, people are going to be watching this. It's a horrific crime, but then you hear that the suspect is just 15 years old. What more do we know about him?
And that's going to have an impact, of course, on the consequences in the aftermath of all of this, right, Tom? So we know he was injured in this. We know he was able to get his hands on a gun that was legally purchased from Arizona in 2020. But in terms of what he's facing, we know he's facing charges of attempted murder, illegal possession of a weapon, that same weapon we just described. But because he's just 15 years old, Tom, as of right now, our understanding is that as a minor, he would serve a maximum of 8 years in a rehabilitation center instead of prison. But of course, right now, everyone is working around the clock to figure out, did he act alone? How did this happen? We know the Minister of Defense in Colombia is pledging money for anyone who has any information, Tom.
Okay, Marissa, we thank you for that story tonight. We want to turn now to Top Stories Global Watch, beginning off the coast of southern India tonight, where people are missing after an explosion and a fire on a container ship. Look at this. 22 people were on board the Singapore-flagged ship. India's Coast Guard and Navy launching a search for at least 4 missing crew members. The Coast Guard saying the explosion happened inside one of the shipping containers, but has not yet given the cause of the explosion or said what was inside that container. And an update on the so-called Freedom Flotilla carrying activist Greta Thunberg, intercepted by Israel's military as it tried to break a naval blockade in Gaza. Thunberg and 11 other activists are now at an Israeli port where they're undergoing medical examinations before being deported back to their home countries. They were trying to deliver supplies to protest Israel's military campaign in Gaza, which has left 2 million Palestinians at risk for famine. And a video showing a man running around the tarmac at London's Heathrow Airport while planes were taking off. You can see him running around near the planes, which are still taxiing and moving around. Airport workers are chasing him, eventually catching him and putting him in a police van. In a statement, Heathrow wrote, operations are running normally. It's not clear how all of this started. Up next on Top Story, one of the most powerful voices in podcasting out with new claims of sexual harassment against her former coach. Why Call Her Daddy podcaster Alex Cooper's stunning accusation is shaking the world of college sports. And burning for beauty, why a new study and what it shows about those popular TikTok and YouTube videos of tweens touting their skincare routines and why they may do more harm than good. You're watching Top Story tonight. We are back now with stunning allegations from one of the most popular podcasters in the world. Alex Cooper, host of Call Her Daddy, is known for sharing almost every detail about her life online. Now she's opening up about sexual harassment she says she was subjected to in college that she hadn't spoken about until now. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin has this one.
Tonight, popular Call Her Daddy podcaster Alex Cooper coming forward with allegations of sexual harassment against her former college soccer coach.
I experienced something extremely painful. It was all taken away from me.
The allegations detailed in the new Hulu docuseries Call Her Alex, which premiered Sunday at the Tribeca Film Festival and will be released Tuesday.
I haven't spoken about this, and I've spoken about so much of my life. Why haven't I? And so that was the first moment where I thought maybe I do need to open this wound back up, and the way to heal it will be to talk about it.
Multiple outlets present at the screening reporting that in the two-part series, Cooper alleges former Boston University head coach Nancy Feldman, quote, always wanted to be alone with me and would make comments about her legs and put a hand on her thigh. Cooper saying it was this psychotic game of, you want to play? Tell me about your sex life, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Feldman and Boston University have not responded to our request for comment. We've also yet to hear back from Hulu.
The minute I stepped back on that field, I felt so small. I felt like I was 18 years old again.
In a Q&A after the screening, Cooper, one of the most popular female podcasters in the world, with a Sirius XM deal valued at more than $100 million, reflecting on the moment the documentary crew filmed her back on the field.
I wasn't the Call Her Daddy girl. I wasn't someone who had money and influence or whatever it be. Like, I was just another woman who experienced harassment on a level that changed my life forever.
Erin McLaughlin joins us now in studio. So, Erin, the docuseries is set to drop tomorrow. What more do we know about her involvement in this docuseries?
Well, Tom, it appears that she was heavily involved. According to Variety, her company called Unwell was involved in the production. Now, this is a two-part Hulu series that also explores her rise as one of the world's most popular podcasters.
Okay, Erin, we thank you for that. Now to top stories, health check, and a new study out of Northwestern looking at how elaborate skincare routines for teens and tweens could actually do more harm than good. Videos like these growing in popularity on TikTok showing young girls using dozens of products they don't actually need, influencing others to invest in a complex and expensive regimen that could negatively impact their skin.
I've also been really into skin prep recently, so I want to show you guys some products.
Okay, you guys, I'm going to use my Glow Recipe Toner.
Skincare haul. Guys, Medicube sent me a ton of skincare to try out, and I'm so excited to share it with you.
All right, those are just a few examples of what that looks like. For more on this, I'm joined by the author of the study, Dr. Molly Hales. She's also a postdoctoral research fellow and board-certified dermatologist. Doctor, we thank you so much for this. I've actually lived through this. I have a 12- and 9-year-old who tell me all about their skin care routines, and they went through a lot of this until one of them actually did have an allergic reaction. So I understand why you did this study. How did this happen, I guess, is what I want to know, because you walk into some skincare stores now that are for adults, and they're filled with girls now.
Yeah, I think that the skincare popularity has really taken off partly because of how much it's viewed and shared on social media. So in our study, we looked at TikTok as the social media outlet where many of these videos are circulating. And we collected 100 videos to look at what kinds of routines are being put forth by these content creators, some of whom, as you mentioned, were only 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, it's so wild. So when you walk through this, what sort of dangers did you find with the products and those young girls' skin?
For sure. So as you already mentioned, the routines themselves were very complicated and time-consuming. The average routine used 6 different products and cost $168. And some of those routines cost over $500 to purchase all the products that the kids were using. And yet the products and combination of products were actually potentially harmful to young skin. And so they posed a risk of irritation, of sun sensitivity, as well as skin allergy.
And then if a tween or a young girl is suffering from some type of skin disorder or an allergy, how do you make sure that nothing that she's putting on her face or when she goes to her friend's house and puts a moisturizer on her face is not going to harm them?
That's a great point. So most of the products that we found had at least one active ingredient that's potentially irritating. So in these skincare routines that are being posted, the most popular videos show girls putting 11 active ingredients on their skin at one time, each of which can be irritating. And sometimes they were putting the same active ingredient on their skin over and over again. So those are all experiences that can compound the irritation potential of the regimens. It's also possible to develop an allergy to one or more ingredient included in the products, usually inactive ingredients like fragrance, and that can be lifelong.
What is, we talk about the cost, and I'm glad you brought that up, but for young girls who are putting on lots of moisturizer that their skin doesn't need, is there any sort of lasting effect to that, long-term damage, or will the skin sort of correct itself, if you will?
In general, if it's just irritation that's the problem, then that will correct over time as those products are stopped. The exception to that is skin allergy. So if a girl develops, for example, an allergic contact dermatitis to fragrance, which was commonly found across many of these products that these girls are using, that tends to be lifelong. And so it can actually limit the types of products that a girl can use for the rest of her life.
Before we go, are there two ingredients you advise all parents to make sure their kids are not putting on their face right now? You don't have to give me name brands, but just the actual ingredient or what the product is called?
I would say the ingredients to be wary of would be alpha and beta hydroxy acids. These are not necessarily dangerous on their own, but they are irritating. And importantly, they increase the skin sensitivity to the sun. So you want to make sure if any of the products that your daughters or sons are using contain alpha or beta hydroxy acids, that you're making sure that they apply sunscreen with them. And we really were disappointed to find that only in about a quarter of the videos that we analyzed were these kids using any type of sun protection, even when they're using 5, 6, a dozen different products on their faces.
The most important right there. Dr. Molly Hales, thank you for joining Top Story tonight. Really love this conversation. When we return, there's no place like home. A runaway zebra. Days on the lam are over. What's next for the striped pet that took social media by storm? We talk with his owners about the dramatic rescue. You see it right there. And if his name is Ed or Zeke. We'll explain that mystery, too. Stay with us. Finally tonight, an update on that runaway zebra that took the internet by storm after a wild week-long search. Ed the zebra was found airlifted to safety. You heard me correctly. I spoke to his owners earlier today about how he got it and what they plan to do with him now. As these images took off on television and social media of a zebra on the loose in Tennessee.
There's a tag on him, too.
Taylor Ford, who recently purchased a zebra, had one thought.
And I said, hey, I think that I need to go check and see if our zebra is in our yard.
Turns out the family's new zebra, they had just named Zeke, was done with the Ford's yard and took his show on the road.
Careful, careful.
It seemed every road in Tennessee. As millions saw the clips of Zeke, the Fords, who own about 100 animals on their farm, weren't exactly laughing.
I was worried that someone was going to get hurt. I was worried that this was going to, become not a happy ending to the story.
State and local officials joined private animal rescue workers in a week-long search. Zeke got so popular, he got a stage name, the internet calling him Ed. Then this Saturday, a break in the case. This video from the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office showing the zebra airlifted and flown by helicopter to a waiting animal shelter. When you saw Ed in that harness being lifted by a helicopter, what did you think?
Biggest relief you could ever imagine.
The owners say they footed the bill for the search, but Taylor's true takeaway? Listen to your wife. She thought buying a zebra might be a mistake.
That should be a meta lesson that America will learn. Your wife is always right. In this situation, she was 100% right.
Listen to your wife. That is good advice. Thanks so much for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.